from 1999, Stephen King tells Rolling Stone, quote, "My wife threatened to divorce me. I played that a lot. I had the dance mix. I loved those extended..."
Okay, Daniel. You got 120 Stephen King articles to read. That's about 2.5 pages per article, so we're looking at 300 pages total. I mean, that's like half a Game of Thrones book or 1/3 of it. Plus, it's going to be about an hour per article for annotation, plus roughly 150 to 200 hours of editing. So like 400 hours of work, give or take. It's like playing through Batman Arkham City twice, while collecting all the Riddler trophies. Anyway, don't focus on that. 120 articles, less than 2 months. Let's get it cracking. Just promise me one thing. You're not going to lose it. You're not going to over-obsess. You're not going to overthink this. Just do the damn project and don't lose your mind. And whatever you do, whatever happens next, don't let this shit get too weird.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mambo number 5.
You got mail.
Mwah! Mwah! Congrats to the movie blues.
Congrats to the movie blues.
Channel for reading 120 Stephen.
Channel for reading 120 Stephen.
King articles.
King articles.
We love you, big boy.
We love you, big boy. House Lord.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the car, so come on, let's ride to the liquor store around the corner. The boys say they want some 22, but I really don't wanna be a buzz like I had last week. I must stay deep, but pocket cheap. I like Angela, Pamela, Sandra, and Rhea. And as I continue, you know it's getting sweeter. So what can I do? I really bag you, my lord. To me, learning is just like a sport. Anything fly, it's all good. Let me jump in and sing in the trumpet.
Greetings from Movie Blues headquarters. I am your current content controller, DS Lyons, coming at you with my 4th installment of the Movie Blues Show, a long-form media examination project which, in this installment, turns its gaze towards one of my all-time heroes, Stephen Edwin King. It would take its own video to describe the impact that this man has had on me creatively, and many of his best stories absolutely haunted my imagination growing up during the 90s. As an adult, I can now say that most of King's work and the adaptations of his work have a mostly net negative mass.
I've written some pretty awful things in my time.
With a lot of his best work being simply riddled with his own cliches and predilections towards a level of accidental camp that feels a lot like cringe.
Yeah, I missed you too.
Many of Stephen King's uber fans, myself included, live on in the fringes of his work, whether through his fantasy series, his noir series, or in my case, just appreciating his lesser heralded work, like the fantastic Tommyknockers, which King himself of course hates, and Do McKee, which I really enjoyed and King probably doesn't even remember writing. Yeah, so today is not about my own shit-taking on King's work. I mean, it kinda is, but for this video, I took a relatively unheard-of angle towards King's work. You see, recently this article has been making the rounds during King's press tour for his new novel Holly, and the article basically breaks down this news story about how King's own wife Tabitha was ready to divorce him over his obsession with Mambo number 5.
News, Stephen King divulged that his wife Tabby almost divorced him because he wouldn't stop listening to Lou Bega's Mambo number 5. I don't know about you, but this sucker's a real earworm.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So the question, why Stephen King played Mambo number 5 so many times that his wife said to leave him if he played it one more time.
King played
In
Mambo
case you were in a
number
hurry,
5 so
let's
much
jump
his
over to
wife
the
threatened to
conclusion
divorce
part
him.
at the
One more
end.
time and I'm going
Are
to
you ready?
fucking leave you.
Okay, let's start.
Stephen King loved to
This
listen to Lou
discussion
Bega's
is
song
based
Mambo
on
number
an
5
article
so much that
on
his wife threatened to
Variety,
divorce
written
him.
by
During
Zach
an interview with
Schaff.
Rolling Stone,
It seems like most major publications have decided that this is newsworthy, trying to, I don't know, shame King for his Mambo kink.
Now the author is revealing his soundtrack of choice while writing, remember, dark and twisted novels.
Which would be fair, but what most of these publications don't realize is that Stephen King has an epic, storied, and publicized history of some of the most brutalizing cringe takes known to man. How do I know of this hidden supreme edgelord as some sort of fact? Well, because as a kid, I had an Entertainment Weekly subscription that I signed up for at my local Suncoast Video. As a movie-ravenous youth in a world where the internet could barely handle a single GIF, Entertainment Weekly became my window into Tinseltown, as I clung on to every celebrity interview and upcoming movie preview as if it were the word of the Lord.
I never know what movie to go to. And then you want to make a quick decision on going to a movie, and you can't find anywhere where you have a quick source.
And as both a massive Stephen King fan and a massive Entertainment Weekly nerd back in the dark ages of 2003, I was elated to find out that the master himself, the Dark Lord Stephen, was given his own weekly or monthly or whenever he felt like it column, where he could share his thoughts about his movie tastes, music recommendations, or just all-around ramblings. And yeah, what you kind of have to understand about the climate of the time was that EW as an organization and through its advertisements was pretty much pitching itself as like a miracle elixir for like solving your movie blues.
In each and every issue, all the week's hottest entertainment is graded for you by a team of the country's most discriminating critics. So in seconds, you can find the best entertainment every day of the week.
Like these people were like literally in their ads pitching this shit to you as if it was going to save you money.
Hey, this is exactly what I need.
That's 4 free issues of the one magazine that shows you how to get the most out of your free time. And that will save you time and money when it comes to choosing the best entertainment.
I mean, come on, how are you going to say no to that?
Sounds good to me. Tell me what I should do again.
So my initial reactions to some of these takes were so memorable across my whole lifetime because not only was I looking to EW as an organization to have succinct and compelling reviews that would steer me in the right direction, but now I'm looking at my idol, my God, my literary Jesus, and I'm looking to hear his gospel, but good God.
And lift you up.
Even as a dumb, snotty, nerd boy kid, even with my brain at 1/1,000,000th of the capacity that Stephen King was operating on, I knew that the man was throwing down some epic shit takes. I remember reading his articles and feeling like I knew King less and less as he spit out some of the most vile, bizarre, and unruly takes I had ever seen in my short life. Right, and so that kicked off a period of time in which I, in about 2 months, read all 120 Stephen King Entertainment Weekly articles. I tried to immerse myself in his headspace. I tried to re-examine the material now that I'm an adult with the somewhat functioning adult brain besides all the toys behind me. Yeah, I just wanted to take his recommendations, try his food recs, his movie recs. I wanted to do the whole 9. You know, healthy stuff, mentally healthy stuff. Stuff that a healthy person would do. Really commit. Mentally healthy stuff. Only. It went great. And let me tell you, folks, it wasn't just as easy as reading all of the articles, which sadly I did, but also finding them was nearly impossible. You see, King's tenure at EW under the moniker of Pop of King, which he coined himself, included more than 50 entries, and these entries have mostly been scrubbed from the internet. What's left on EW's archive are incomplete, down to some of the articles themselves, which only include a couple paragraphs. And over half of the articles, including most of the ones from 2004 through 2006, are simply gone altogether. For weeks, no joke, for weeks I searched to find an archive of these hidden bad takes. And after scouring the internet for every Stephen King fan site, for every EW Stan organization. I mean, even after considering going on eBay here and buying each issue that Stephen King contributed to would have been a pricey and lengthy and probably frustrating endeavor. So thankfully, right before I kind of threw away my suitcase on this project and started planning another vacation, I stumbled upon a fantastic Polish website that I found after nearly a month-long search. These guys, or guy or girl, have compiled all of Stephen King's EW articles. I am not sure what kind of effort it took to transpose all of this, but to the Polish, I thank you. I tip my hat, and if you want to read these articles, there's a link to the website in the description. Check it out. So yeah, now I finally have access to the complete Pop of King archives from EW, and I read every blessed page of them. So without further ado, grab your Bangor beer and your Castle Rock cocaine, because we're in for a car accident of a ride as the Movie Blues Show explores Stephen King's universe of cringe. Ready or not, here I come, from 8/1/2003. It's best we start at the beginning here with King's first EW article titled Pop of King, which would soon become King's EW alter ego cringe moniker. In his first piece, Papa Cringe says that EW asked him to start a regular series of articles after the huge response that he got for his Harry Potter review. I guess this is a good time to introduce some of the central players in the Papa Cringe universe. And for some reason, Harry Potter and, oh my god, Lost seem to be a topic that King can literally never stop talking about, be it his 10 different reviews and reaction pieces he has to the series throughout his articles, but also just constantly referencing Harry Potter like it's the golden standard of bookmaking. Worth mentioning in this episode because it's just downright funny to see King gassing up Jo Rowling like she's the second coming of Christ, considering the two are frequently butting heads in the media today, with Jo even blocking King on socials after his defense of trans rights. But anyway, once the Potterizing is complete, Papa Cringe decides it's time to crack open his treasure trove of movies and book opinions to tell us, quote, "So this is more or less who I am." And for this generation-defining author's first entry into his world, the first taste of his tastes, the first piece of manna distributed to the masses, I loved T3.
Oh no!
King says, Arnold is still the perfect machine. A movie like this has to have at least one line worth quoting, and this one gives life to an old favorite. Talk to the hand. So right off the bat, we have King standing for Terminator 3, followed by his appraisal of Talk to the Hand at the same level of Hasta la Vista. It's at this point that Papa could have probably turned this whole article around and fed us something maybe less inflammatory. But he pivots from praising T3 to trashing Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later? This is a double dose of cringe because another one of King's most praised pieces of content in all of these articles is AMC's The Walking Dead. Jesus, oof. Ow, Stevie, ow. King says, liked 28 Days Later, didn't love it. The bottom line for horror movies that doesn't change from year to year, their job is to scare you silly, and either they do that or they don't. 28 Days Later intrigued me. I'm a sucker for survivors in empty cities, as anyone's read The Stand knows. But there's nothing in 28 Days Later that comes back to haunt me, even in the evening, even after the bedroom light is out. And man, you might be praying that that's it for this article, but Papa Cringe isn't done with his champagne campaign quite yet. Because now the Dark Lord turns his gaze to pop music. Yay! Pop music, well, the fact is I don't have much use for pop music, and I refuse to listen to any musical artist who goes by a single name. Beyonce? Go away. Jewel? Out of my face. Ashanti? Quit it. The only exception to this rule is Eminem. I love Eminem, partly because he's funny and savage, but also because he still admits that underneath it all, there's a person named Marshall Mathers. I like AC/DC, Metallica, and the Dixie Chicks. Okay, I mean, wow, music is subjective as hell, maybe more than any other art form, but what did Jewel ever do? This woman is a nymph-like Canadian treasure. Beyonce? I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, I guess he's doing a gag on how he hates one-name artists, but somehow he completely forgets about Prince, Madonna. But no, Eminem is all good, and a character that King brings up plenty of times throughout his cringe timeline. Forgetting about Madonna, loving Metallica, and the Dixie Chicks is a wealth of cringeable content. But then, King manages to do what the best of his novels do. End terribly. I have no interest whatsoever in Celine Dion. If you like Celine Dion, you should write or email the editors of this magazine and tell them that on no account should they hire Stephen King to write commentaries, because Stephen King thinks Who Let the Dogs Out is better than all the songs Miss Dion has ever recorded put together. Yeah, before you ask, of course, King mentions his love for Who Let the Dogs Out several times across the timeline, which, again, nobody asked for. So yeah, this first entry into Pop of King is pretty staggering. It's a bewildering ride down the rabbit hole of King's depravities. Had this been the only entry into King's EW timeline of shit takes, maybe we could have reasonably said that this article is dated. Maybe you could argue that Beyonce wasn't the artist that she is now, that the excitement for a new Terminator movie could have clouded Uncle Stevie's judgment. I'm sorry, it's another bizarre and off-putting moniker that King goes by in these articles, which is its own layer of cringe. But no, this is merely the first tip of the shitberg to come. Strap in, because that was just the beginning. My Summer Hitlist, June 3rd, 2005. Next up, we have a special and hilarious hell, the prediction articles that the Pop of King would shit out every season or two. In this first entry from 2005, King makes some truly bizarre predictions throughout, trying to decide what the hits and misses of the summer would be. And if you've never had the pleasure of hearing a gothically isolated boomer from Maine give his predictions for a Hollywood summer, then hoo boy do I have the article for you. My highlights from this one are Uncle Stevie's prediction that Tim Burton's living fucking plasticine nightmare, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, would, quote, appeal to both the kids and the mommies. Having seen this movie as a teenager, the child in me was utterly horrified beyond recognition, and the adult in me was wondering if Tim Burton had a milliounce of talent left. Once again, had this been the only trifling part of the article, I could have maybe forgiven and moved on. But the Pop of King follows his excitement for Willy Wonka up with his excitement for one of the worst fucking movies ever, Tim Story's The Fantastic Four, which he says he's, quote, pulling for because of the inspired casting of Michael Chiklis.
That's it, Tinkerbell! You wanna fly? Then fly!
And then from there, King just tumbles down a final paragraph rabbit hole, just riddled with terrible predictions, and the thoughts of somebody who absolutely has no idea what kids like, what Hollywood audiences like, or what human beings are like, I don't know. Other projected winners: Deuce Bigalow 2 and Dark Water. The latter of which he says is for the junior high Harry Potter set. I have no idea how he managed to bring Harry Potter into every article he wrote for EW, but this is one of the weirdest ones.
No! Ron, no!
He follows these predictions up by trashing the only legitimate incoming hit in this entire list, Madagascar, which he says is a word nobody can spell about a place nobody's been, featuring more funny cartoon animals than anyone is going to want to see. Like, most hilarious in this list is the prediction about the Potter kiddies wanting to see Dark Water with Jennifer Connelly. Turns out that Stephen King's clairvoyance in predicting pop trends is about as accurate as a broke-down fortune-telling cabinet in Chernobyl. I mean, all you have to do is look at this list, and Madagascar made $556 million that summer, crushed every other movie in this list. So it's at this point that you might be wondering, hey, what have you been listening to while you do this project, Dan? What music has inspired you to, Jesus, with this crap? Come on. You may be wondering what I've been listening to. Well, it's been a healthy mix of the usual playlists that I listen to on my MacBook for when I am writing, etc. It's got movie scores and stuff like that. But then I thought it would be wise to maybe take the advice of my peers and get back into the headspace of Mr. King. So after posting about my progress in the Movie Blues Rental Zone, our online public Facebook group, which you can join anytime you feel like it, Mikey Smith, a member of the Rental Zone, said that I should do the project all while listening to Mambo No. 5 on repeat. Really immerse yourself in the experience. Just dip your toes in the waters of insanity. And it's a good thing for you, Mikey, because that is my middle name, dipping my toes in the water of insanity. And it's for those reasons that for like a 5 or 6 hour editing session, I had my boy Lou Bega in the top left, which began as kind of funny and then got kind of ugly. And then it started sending me to that special place, that bottom floor depth of obsession that fueled this project, spilled over into the Mambo 5 shit, and here we are. I've completely fucking lost my mind. Here we go. Starting to figure out why King was listening to Mambo number 5, and yes, it is a conspiracy that I am not willing to disclose all the fucking details on, but I will tell you now that there are connections, is what I am saying. And these connections, they're big. They're small. They go from the books, the TV shows, the movies. They're cross-platform. They're cross-content. Yeah, the first one, a little bit of Monica. Monica Cochran, mother of Dorsey Cochran in the novel It. Oh, you want a little bit of Erica by your side? Well, Erica is the girlfriend of George Dawson in Carrie. If it's a little bit of Rita that you're looking for to drink, Rita L. DeJarn is a character from Carrie. How about a little bit of Tina? Can I get you on some Tina? Yeah, Tina Blake is a character also from Carrie. A little bit of Sandra in The Sun. Well, there's no sun when there's a storm. The storm of the century. And Sandra Beals, that's a character. A little bit of Mary All Night Long. Mary Jackson, college professor from Desperation. A little bit of Jessica. Here I am, he declares. Jessica, main character of Gerald's Game. And that's where we're at. That is the fucking end point. We are in the Lou Bega, Stephen King, extended Mambo number 5 universe. Everything is going great. Perfectly healthy activity here at Movie Blues headquarters. And let's move on. Extras Bite, June 17th, 2005. Okay, folks, this is when we're getting into some of the more depraved takes this man has to offer during his sentence at EW. And boy, oh boy, this one stinks. Basically, this Extras Bite article is a brutal takedown of something that Uncle Stevie hates and mentions across multiple articles. DVD extras. Speaking as somebody who's done a considerable amount of plastic collecting across 3 generations of physical disc media, I can confidently say that if anything is lacking from the modern day 4K Blu-rays, it's special features. I mean, and better box art and, come on, an insert of some kind, Jesus. Between the stale-ass menus, the lifeless special features, and the lack of commentary tracks, physical media releases are only ever shown an ounce of special attention if it's an independently produced release from amazing companies like Criterion, Arrow, Vinegar Syndrome, etc. These things from off the Walmart show floor couldn't be more bare bones if a goddamn skeleton fell out of it. So when King melts down about the special features on DVDs, he melts down. He dedicated an entire article to this campaign, wittily called Extras Bite. Actually, I don't even know if it's witty. It's written like a pun, but it's not a pun. Anyway, the worst extra in all cases is the commentary track. It's usually the director running off at the mouth, but he may be joined by a producer, an actor, or possibly some guy who happened to wander in off the street. These commentary tracks reduce even the most brilliant filmmakers to bores, showing home movies in their own dens. In a shot of Florida near the beginning of Meet the Fockers, co-producer John Polt informs us this was actually shot in Florida. Director Joel Swick betters that in his Fat Albert commentary. What you're viewing now is the 20th Century Fox logo, he says as the 20th Century Fox logo rolls out at the head of the movie. And when Fat Albert and his animated pals appear, this is animation for those of you who have never seen animation before. You know, it's times like this where you might be thinking that it would be easy to agree with King. But it's even easier to just ask the man why the fuck he was scouring every corner of the Meet the Fockers DVD. And my god, the Fat Albert commentary. How did this man have time to write 31,271 pages as of 2023 and still finds time to somehow get upset about shit like this too? I mean, I can't even go to the gym for 45 minutes after work. And ultimately, like, are you really gonna bitch about directors having verbose commentary tracks? I mean, you, Stephen King, have written thousands of pages about the process of writing, about your writing. You wrote a fucking book called On Writing.
If you want to use that kind of language, take it out in the street.
I mean, if anybody should know the need for a creative to endlessly conjecture about their own work and how their work is created, God, you would think it would be you. The second worst feature is the making of documentary, which is particularly horrible in the Day After Tomorrow DVD package. The doc begins with some people mugging at the camera in home movie tradition, while German beer hall music oompas in the background, perhaps a tribute to director Roland Emmerich. From there, things ooze downhill. People wander in and out of the frame, sometimes speaking audibly. The sound quality in this doc is awful, and it seems to go on forever. My advice, after experiencing the Day After Tomorrow's features, is to avoid any DVD with 2-disc collector's edition on it the way that you'd avoid a fixer-upper on a house in Amityville, Long Island. I did find some useful extras during my search, however. In the newly released version of XXX, there was a free ticket to State of the Union. This is so early in the video, like I could spend an hour on this. Is this video going to be 30 hours long? Fuck. Why is this man hating on making of docs? I mean, some of the best documentaries about cinema have sprung from this well. From Apocalypse Now to The Abyss to, well, you name it. Making of docs are oftentimes pivotal pieces of cinematic history. And for God's sakes, if you wanted to watch a making of doc, you're really gonna watch the one for Day After Tomorrow? And yeah, as you probably guessed it by now, like all the other weird things that King stands for multiple times throughout all of these articles, the Day After Tomorrow makes a disconcerting amount of appearances. As for Papa Cringe's free ticket to XXX State of the Union, man, I hope he enjoyed the show.
Welcome to the hood, college boy.
My top 10 movies of 2006 from December 22nd, 2006. Next up, we have a brief entry. There was more to be mined from this one, but it had a standout worth mentioning here. In December of 2006, King unleashed his favorite films of the year, and sitting at number 6 isn't so much a bad movie, but a bad choice for King. In 2006, 2 dueling films dropped about magicians, kind of like Deep Impact Armageddon, but for abracadabra. The narcissistic and mostly flat The Illusionist, starring Edward Norton in an obvious career decline, and Jessica Biel. And then we have one of the most masterful, gorgeous, haunting, and brilliant pieces of cinema ever created, The Prestige. There's an argument where this film is like potentially the most airtight and succinct film in Christopher Nolan's entire career, with incredible performances, visuals, and a script that packs a next-level twist that I'll never forget. So, who you think your boy is standing for on this one? Yeah. Number 6, The Illusionist. 2 movies featuring magicians from the early 1900s came out this year. I saw both, and I liked both. What made The Illusionist special for me was Edward Norton's dueling with Paul Giamatti, and an ending that compelled me back to the theater at once to see how I had been tricked. Yeah, who could ever forget that Voldemort, Harry Potter level confrontation between the Incredible Hulk and the guy from Duets? And even better, even more painful of a knife twist is that The Prestige didn't even make his list.
You disrespect yourself and your nation.
All right, let's keep the momentum running here.
Fuck me, Freddy. Here's to 20 more.
We got Stephen King on Why You Shouldn't Trust EW Critics from 2007. 2007 brought us some of the most trifling takes in King's entire career. Had the title of this next article not been ironic enough, King is literally acting as an EW critic in this capacity. So he's trashing his own cadre to begin with, and following the request that you do not listen to EW critics, King then launches off on one of my least favorite takes of his, which is mentioned several times throughout several articles, but detailed fully inside this epic tome. In the course of a single week, I saw one movie that definitely mattered. Maybe it was the best movie I've seen in the last 30 years, and one that didn't. One that was, in fact, pretty blah. The blah movie was Kill Bill. Probably saw some good reviews of it, possibly even in this magazine. Steve says don't believe it. Steve says you should remember that movie critics see the movies for free. Also, they don't have to pay the babysitter or spring $10 for parking. They're thus apt to rhapsodize over narcissistic stuff like Kill Bill, which announces itself as Quentin Tarantino's 4th film. Ain't we la-di-da? Kill Bill isn't a benchmark of awfulness like Mars Attacks or Mommy Dearest. Mommy Dearest, what the fuck? It's just dually full of itself. Uma Thurman tries hard, but she's the best thing in the movie. In the end, she's stuck playing a woman who's a label instead of a human being. She is, God save us, the bride. The violence is choreographed like an Esther Williams swim routine. Who the fuck? Who would know? Who is this reference for? But when the bride dispatches at least 70 kung fu goons in one scene, blood squirts from amputated limbs, often in pretty spirals. And the movie's litany of in-jokes is so tiresome. There's not even an ending you can hang your hat on. We're just told to stay tuned for more. More karate kicks and throws, more falsetto, birdie-sounding battle cries. It's certainly well made, and the story garners some of our interest as it goes along. But dull is still dull, isn't it? All I'm going to do here is trying to focus the feelings of vague dissatisfaction you're apt to experience leaving this movie, that sense that you came to be entertained and instead found yourself warming at the hands of the bonfire of Quentin Tarantino's vanities. Again, Kill Bill isn't a bad movie, it's just a tepid one. 10 years from now, you'll be hard-pressed to remember what it was about or who was in it. Mystic River, on the other hand, will burn itself into your memory. 20 years from now, you'll be able to recall Sean Penn's terrible cries of grief when he realizes his daughter is dead. I mean, in all honesty, sure, I can remember a lot of Sean Penn's cries of grief from that film in his iconic meltdown scene, but I surely remember a lot more of Kill Bill, and I'm willing to wager that most people on Earth do as well, considering cuts from his soundtrack are still iconic in 2023. Kill Bill's effect on society as a whole, on pop culture, on the lexicon, is nothing less than historic. What are you gonna do, dress up like Sean Penn's murdered daughter for Halloween? I mean, come on, dude. 10 Best Movies of 2008, December 19th, 2008. And only a year later, Papa Cringe, hater of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, Kill Bill, 28 Days Later, Beyoncé, and Jewel, unleashes another fantastic take on a 10 Best Movies of 2008 list, which does not include Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler, Iron Man, Frost Nixon, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, In Bruges, Gran Torino, and Tropic Thunder. Instead, we have his number 10 of the year, Death Race.
Why?
Death Race is filled with laconic violence and blasting muscle cars. But just beneath the surface is a biting satire of reality TV. I mean, I didn't even know that there was a man alive who liked this movie. I mean, let alone to put it on a top 10 list. This was during the era of Paul W.S. Anderson's career, where every single movie he made was an outright war crime. And I just can't believe how many amazing films King vaulted over to praise such a piece of shit. It was at this point in my quest across King's reign of terror that I was admittedly feeling quite fatigued. I had spent the better part of 20 hours dissecting the living shit out of these EW articles, and the rash of negativity about King and his opinions and his endless thousands of fucking words on pop culture began to truly gain on me. Like, I'm only sharing the good nugs with you guys here, but what I'm leaving out are 15 or so articles about King's favorite bro rock, pre-Lumineers, banjo, Americana garbage fetish. His 10-plus articles about pop music and Britney Spears, and again about Harry Potter. I was starting to question why I had gotten into all this. I mean, it wasn't to bash one of the greatest living American authors, but to have others recognize how full tilt this man was at literally shitposting in a nationally distributed magazine like it was his own 4chan. King was basically like the Q of Entertainment Weekly, and I don't mean like old British stuffy Q, I mean like MTG Q. His articles had their own lingo, nicknames, and in-universe codes. His Q-drops were downright anarchic downloads of bizarre, cryptic, and prophetic shit takes. But maybe this unique shit quest is just another example of a genius mind that just sees the damn world differently than us. Maybe he's another idiot savant whose predilections are for ranting on the internet like a madman like Elon Musk. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard on Stephen King because he is a genius. He is a literal content factory and is one of the most prolific horror authors in history. Maybe it was time to let go of my anger towards old Uncle Stevie and let the process of healing begin. Now, deep down, weeks down into my own increasingly mentally unwell rabbit hole, in researching this video, it felt like it was time to take a break. So I decided to take my first full send recommendation from Papa Cringe's archive. In the article, The One That Got Away from October 2009, Stevie goes out of his way to write an entire article shipping the movie Carriers during a year where some of the best hidden gems in cinematic history were dropping. Things like Enter the Void and Pontypool and Moon and Bad Lieutenant New Orleans. So I decided to take a break from my article quest to do my due diligence and watch this horror movie from 2009 starring Piper Perabo, Chris Pine, and Christopher Maloney. And yeah, okay, this movie was just fine. It would have made for an above-average Netflix apocalyptic boy. I mean, I'd say it's a little better, or at least more dramatically potent than something really fucking terrible like Bird Box. And I will admit, it is pretty hard to not let the intrusive thoughts creep in. The thoughts that tell me that King openly trashed Danny Boyle's iconic apocalypse film to go on to dedicate an entire article to this entry-level, cliched, constructed, deadly pandemic fable. Anyway, whatever it had a good cast, it went down relatively easy. I mean, it was shot with some style and panache, and it provided some level of relief from the brutality yet still to come. And so, I breathed deep, I refreshed my Polish VPN browser, and got rockin'. The best movies of 2009, from January 1st, 2010. Yep, so right off the bat, I'm back to being mentally unwell here, folks. Sorry, it only took one article.
You killed me! You bitch.
In this garish top 10 for the year, King starts out with Roland Emmerich's 2012, potentially the worst film the director has ever made in his career. But I know, King couldn't turn his back on the boy who made Day After Tomorrow. That's like a ride or die situation. I respect that. Also on his top 10 is Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is just aggressively fine. The Taking of Pelham 123, which was an instantly forgettable remake, one of many remakes that King is just obsessed with throughout these articles. Law-Abiding Citizen, which, I had to check the actual headline of the article to make sure somehow this wasn't the worst of the year.
Vengeance. That's what you think this is about? Vengeance? Or I kill everyone.
And while he manages to include District 9 and Hurt Locker, although their positions should absolutely be switched, this list is still somehow missing so many heavy hitters from that year. From Inglourious Basterds, one of the greatest movies ever, to Watchmen, Up, Avatar, Coraline, The Coen Brothers, A Serious Man, and then, even more egregiously, we have some of the most slamming horror movies of the modern age coming out in 2010. From Von Trier's Antichrist, to Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell, to Park Chan-wook's Thirst, to Zombieland, to Splice, to Orphan, to Pandorum, to The Collector. I mean, none of these made their way onto the list. But this piece of shit movie, which I didn't like, almost nobody gave a shit about, this random remake of Last House on the Left that came out in 2009, the same year, which featured the much better remake of Friday the 13th, at least compared to this. This movie made it to number fucking 2 on this Maniacs list. And the review just unravels me. Easily the most brilliant remake of the decade, and that's not just because the 1972 original was such a crapfest. This beautifully photographed but hard-to-watch movie is the standard by which all horror and suspense films should be judged. The acting is superior, the story makes sense, and most importantly, Last House's moral compass points true north. We don't want those creeps back for 6 or 8 sequels. They are the monsters. We want them dead. This film is on par with Silence of the Lambs.
Wake up!
What the fuck is happening? Steven, what are you doing here? How much worse is this going to get? It's going to get a lot more worse, And so now we are at the threat level midnight part of this journey. We are at nuclear critical take maximum.
Surely we can't take any more of this, Captain. She's gonna blow.
September 2010. My hits and misses. As we reach critical mass, it's time to breach into the upper cringe sphere to absorb one of the most awful 1-2 punches in cursed sentence history. As Uncle Stevie descends into the depths of madness while discussing his faves and nays for the year, he muses on his first IMAX experience, Christopher Nolan's Inception.
Be careful, weary traveler, for the cringe you're about to experience is hard to recover from.
Inception was my first IMAX movie, and my reaction was, is that all? I mean, it's basically a big movie screen. On the other hand, the sound was amazing, and I'd like to see Metallica or AC/DC in IMAX, with the same kick-ass sound system. Okay. Not so bad yet. I mean, sure, he trashed IMAX as a format, which is functionally insane. I mean, if I see a large-scale movie, I think that IMAX is basically the best way to go. But surely this take can't get any more insidious from here.
What is your problem?
Did I understand all of it? No, sir, I did not. Did I dig the amazing effects in Leonardo DiCaprio's intense haunted performance? Yes, I did. I'm also majorly crushing on Ellen Page.
In a platonic, Uncle Stevie kind of way, of course.
Oh, and he also didn't like California Girls by Katy Perry. He said she's, quote, gorgeous. Yuck. But found the song disappointing. Anyway, my top 10 films of 2010 from December 2010. In 2010, King immediately gets back on his bullshit by somehow swimming by some of the most fantastic films and horror films of the year to shit out a take that might make his Last House on the Left take from 2009 seem tame in comparison. So before we look back at what horror film from 2010 King put at the top of his list, let's take a brief rundown of other horror films from that year, although this is only half of the reason this take is so bananas. So in 2010, we had James Wan's Insidious absolutely rock the horror world, and it is not on this list. Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan is a giallo horror throwback that pierced across genres to tell a maddening and brilliant story. Not on this list. We had I Saw the Devil, one of the most gonzo, brilliant horror films of the 2010s. It's a story about a serial killer and a cop that honestly feels like a South Korean Stephen King story. Not here, not on the list. We had the cult classic horror fantasy film Rare Exports, which I feel like Stephen King would also really enjoy, or you would enjoy, and is an incredible experience if you haven't seen it. We had Scorsese's closest crack at a psychological horror thriller, Shutter Island. Nowhere to be seen on this list. We had the stupendously fun Piranha 3D from High Tension and Hills Have Eyes director and horror master Alexander Aja. I mean, we even had The Crazies in 2010, which wasn't even all that great, but it was still better than what King has for his #1 film of 2010. And you gotta keep in mind, it's not only the horror angle here, but this list for the year is also missing Toy Story 3, The Fighter, Blue Valentine, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Kick-Ass, Tron Legacy, How to Train Your Dragon, Exit Through the Gift Shop, The Secret in Your Eyes, Marwen Call, and even True Grit, which is honestly probably my pick for a favorite movie of that year. So anyway, without further ado, here is Stephen King's pick for the best movie of 2010. Let the Right One In. Remake #1.
Oh my God!
Moving and bloodthirsty, tender and horrifying, sweet and gruesome. These beautifully drawn contrasts, plus the bleak snowscape of Los Alamos, New Mexico, make Let Me In the best remake from Swedish film Let the Right One In of the year, and the best horror film of the decade.
Which, in editing this project, I've come to find out that in a 2014 interview, King claimed that Let Me In was the best American horror film of the last 20 years. But for the purpose of this video, yeah, we gotta stick to what he said at the time.
It's a story of teenage love and loss that makes the Twilight films look pallid in comparison.
Best horror movie of the decade. Best horror movie of the decade. I'm Stephen King. I picked the best horror movie because I'm the horror man. I mean the horror things.
Oh, God. As if you didn't see this coming, but here you go. But yeah, I mean, I love Matt Reeves as much as the next guy. I love his Planet of the Apes stuff. I love Cloverfield. I love The Batman. Hell, I even kind of enjoyed this remake. But holy shit, the level of hyperbole that this man is operating at is positively nuclear. This is just like the atomic shit son of crap takes.
Oh my God, stop scaring me!
And it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the very genre that in print form, King is the master of. I mean, maybe this is why Stephen King couldn't make a movie himself to save his own life. Maybe this is why the best of his work has such difficulty in translation. You either speak Stephen King's language or stay the fuck out of his way.
What's not to like, you know?
Can't fault him for being this unapologetically wild in the pre-internet, post-car accident, post-cocaine King days. And so the battle went on for me, crushing through anachronistic articles about how much King wanted the Jay Leno show to fail. A string of articles where King has to come to boomer grips with the invention of the Kindle that read like your dad trying to differentiate between an Xbox Series X and a Game Boy. There's strings of articles praising more bad Americana, more bad rock music, more shipping laughable shows like Person of Interest, 24, and God, The Walking Dead again and again. He's got articles about which movie snack is the best, which for the love of God he picks Junior Mints. Actually, come to think of it, he has roughly 5 more articles of the 120 that deal specifically with snacking. Horror movie snacks, regular movie snacks, and exercise tips by, quote, bopping in the car to your favorite Ramones song, instead of actually going to the gym, and other factoids that are just rotting away and deleting themselves down this particular rabbit hole of the internet. As I reached the final article of Stephen King's tenure at Entertainment Weekly, entitled So Long, My Friends, I felt as if I'm less Stephen King's friend and more likely one of his fictional victims to a horror monster from one of his best tales.
Hi!
This experience sucked the marrow out of my bones. It made me bitter and made me coarse. I surely wasn't going to read Holly now, and hell, I haven't even read that copy of The Institute that my mom lent me. I'm burnt the fuck out on King, the man, the myth, and the legend. It doesn't help that I saw Boogeyman this year, and that shit sucked too. And yet, as I was just ready to forsake my childhood hero and never read another word of King again, a passage stood out from his final farewell. Basically, I want you to watch this, read that, and listen to the other thing. I want to fill you with my enthusiasm. I want to pass it on like a kiss. Who was I, as the movie blogger, reviewer, and content creator, to not resonate with this line? I almost took it as a half apology, a recognition of years of pain and thousands of words of utter boomergastic nonsense that had filled my head as a kid, and now utterly poisoned my soul as an adult deep in research. Why was I making this video, if not for trying to fill the world around me with that enthusiasm, to pass on my predilections to those willing to listen? After all, other people had to hear me praise Jurassic World Dominion, Halloween Ends, and The Rise of Skywalker in the course of like 2 years. When will my King of Cringe compilation come? I can only keep working to make that dream a reality. I mean, I did just make a half-an-hour episode on how great The Idol was, so I'm already well on the way. So yeah, anger subsided, relief intensifying. Made my peace with the King of Cringe. From one cringe lord to another, I salute you, Stephen King. You're truly the best. I'm D.S. Lyons, host of the Movie Blues, signing out.